The best Necromancer build in the game, Bone Spear, used to have one single weakness. That one we cleared out of the window with this build. Tier 100 dungeon bosses getting deleted. Grigoire or Uberduriel out of the window. And now also giant packs of mobs just get exploded by corpse explosions, which are hitting the complete room. Yes, we incorporated Black River into the Bone Spear build after testing it with Bloodlands and also a Blight physical corpse explosion build. It has now arrived. The Black River Bone Spear Destruction. Focusing on physical damage to have your corpse explosions do 10 million and plus crits on top of the standard millions that Bone Spear is already dealing. Did I mention that due to the lidless wall, you're absolutely undying in tier 100 dungeons? Perfection. Now I'll have two versions of the build for you. The dungeon pushing build and then tweaks and twerks to make it even better for boss killing, because there's a few items that Necro can wield for getting even more incredible boss damage. Skills, very tricky because we got to get our 18 ranks of corpse explosion in while still getting everything into the Bone Spear and maxing out the Grim Harvest, Fueled by Death, everything. Still, we managed to do it. First 2 points into Bone Splinters, and then we're getting everything into the Bone Spear with the Paranormal Bone Spear for the bonus critical strike damage. 1 point in Unliving Energy. I would like to have 3, but we simply can't do it. And then the bonus multiplier of Imperfectly Balanced for the 15% more damage. Right now, we have 6 ranks in Hoot Flesh due to our gear, which brings us up to a 48% lucky hit chance for corpses versus bosses. And that, with a Bone Spear being 70% lucky hit, is incredible together to always make corpses. Now we get the Blood Mist producing some corpses that we get the free Corpse Tendril autocast for the 60% damage multiplier. And those 18 ranks in Corpse Explosion with one of the best skills in the Necro board called Plate Corpse Explosion. Not Blighted, no, Plate. Why is Plate so good? It's an 8% more damage against slowed, stunned, or vulnerable enemies. And that stacks. So it's another 8, 8, and 8% on top of the bonus 189% the Corpse Explosion has. I mean, it does a base of 70,000 damage. It's so beautiful. Now we get 5 points in Fueled by Death for the 15% permanent multiplier, and Grim Harvest, as we get now 6 essence per corpse consumed. And since we're consuming 5 corpses at the same time, that is 30 essence on every consumption. Perfection. Now we do have 6 ranks in Amplified Damage with our amulet, and that Amplified Damage works on everything. Bone skills and also the corpse skills, because the Corpse Explosion might be physical damage as it is with a Bone Spear, but it is not a bone skill. Decrepify into the cooldown reduction Decrepify. We could take the instant kill because we don't really need the cooldown reduction that much. That being said, there is a new Paragon node that I discovered, never used before. I'll have to change every single Paragon board because of it. That replaces Hard Decrepify. Even better. 1 single point in Corpse Tendrils, leading to 11 points in total with our equipment, and Plague Corpse Tendrils for making things vulnerable. Down here, we have Serration. We don't need more than 1 point because we're already at an 87% critical strike chance. With Compound Fracture and Evulsion, usually we would take another 3 points in Evulsion in our amulet. That is not happening anymore because we want to hire Corpse and Bone Skill damage at the same time with Amplify damage. Sacrifice your minions for damage reduction, best minion node in the whole board, sadly, and also make your sacrifice bonuses stronger. We take Bone Storm into the damage reduction Bone Storm and the permanent 20% critical strike chance. Lastly, Ossified Essence for the 60% damage multiplier right here, because we have a bunch of essence that will go higher up to 80, almost 90% with our bossing gear. Very important to keep in mind, when you're playing this build, you never empty your Essence Globe out ever, especially versus bosses. If you notice your Essence Globe is at half, wait for 1-2 seconds for your bot to hit 2 attacks. You get another 40 Essence plus, then keep shooting again. Simply because the more Essence you have, the more damage you deal, and the less Essence you have, the less damage you deal. Our Book of the Dead changed tremendously because our gear on Paragon board improved. Instead of sacrificing our minions for resistance to all elements, we're now sacrificing them for the bonus critical strike chance. 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but with the sacrifice bonus, it's more 7% permanently increased. And that is amazing, especially since the bonus resistance felt always a bit useless since you can get it in other means. Skeleton Mages get sacrificed for more vulnerable damage multiplier, which is fantastic. And then lastly, the Golem gives us the critical strike damage multiplier of 30% slaps. Star of the show equipment wise is our weapon. that would be the Black River, giving us the int ranks to all corpse explosion, and those 4 ranks are 28% on the corpse explosion and a cooldown reduction for our corpse tendrils. Then fueled by death, hoot flash, and in total 130% multiplier for the corpse explosion, plus an increase in radius for every corpse consumed. You can consume 5 corpses, 30 essence instantly, triggering also your flesh eater for a 40% multiplier. That's a Paragon glyph. That's a Paragon node we'll talk about. Hitting a whole room with millions of corpse explosion, while your bone spear is providing the corpses and also the millions of damage to just add up to compounding crazy damage. And the Ring of Sacrilegious Souls is where the fun begins, because as we're bone spearing, everything happens automatic with this ring. Very cool is that the ring not only does the corpse explosion and tendrils, it gives us maximum essence plus and lucky hit chance. We need the lucky hit chance, we need the maximum essence, and the ranks in all corpse guilds, which is another 21% multiplier. These 12 maximum essence on the ring gives us 6% multiplicative more damage due to our key passive. Now the lucky hit chance makes perfect sense with the exposed flesh circle, which is available from the Codex of Powers and gives us 48 essence on vulnerable target hits. And with the vulnerable target hits, we have the bone spear go through, then splinter, and all of that can actually lucky hit. Very interesting. Plus your corpse explosions and tendrils, they can lucky hit as well. Now what we want here is lucky hit chance, critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and physical damage. Not bone skill damage, physical damage. That's what your bone spear and your corpse explosion is. Amulet does have the amplified damage we talked about, not evosion, plus ranks to all corpse skills for the next 21% multiplier. We're playing the 30% critical strike chance to bring us up to 87%. And then the 60% multiplier to all our critical strikes for corpse explosion for bone spear. We do have the damage reduction while fortified, could take essence cost reduction here, and movement speed instead of intelligence to make us zoom even faster. You do notice we're playing diamonds in all 3 gears right now. That helps us together with the Paragon changes to really max out our resistances. For boots, we're finally not playing flicker stat, we're playing stat boots. Stat boots give me 17 to all stats and 62 intelligence. Way more damage, and these 17 to all stats could be 27, allow me to hit more Paragon nodes, to unlock more of those rare nodes. Movement speed and essence cost reduction, amazing. If movement speed was 26%, I would zoom like crazy, especially with critical strikes granting us even more movement speed on the Wind Striker. Fantastic to finally be fast as a Necro. Usually you're the slowest of all of them. You're probably still a bit faster now. Pens is the first item that we're going to change during boss fights. Let me explain. You get maximum life here and ranks to all corpse explosion skills. Fantastic. That's another 28% multiplier on your corpse explosion, and we have the Bone Storm barrier happening. What you want otherwise is 2 damage reduction stats. Damage reduction while fortified and damage reduction as a whole. Damage reduction while fortified finally works for this build. We have a Paragon glyph that fortifies us permanently in this build. You do not need the total armor percentage roll anymore. That one needs to be only on the chest piece. Yes, we only need 1 single total armor percentage roll. I'll get to that in a second. The alternative pens are T-Bald's Will for boss fighting. They give us a 40% damage multiplier after we leave Blood Mist. And the rotation would be go into Blood Mist versus a boss, have the auto corpse tendril cast as soon as they hit, come out of the Blood Mist, and 4 seconds long with the 60% multiplier from the corpse tendrils and the 40% global multiplier from T-Bald's Will. If you then also curse, you get the cooldown reduction and might get the Blood Mist even faster. The pens give you all damage too, and 20 maximum resource plus. That's another 10% multiplier for your Bone Spear. Your Bone Spear with these pens is getting 50% more damage, not 40. That's quite fantastic, especially when you're bossing. Mentioning Bone Storm, yes, we're playing the Litless Wall. That gives us maximum essence as well, so another 10% multiplier for our Bone Spear. And it allows us to permanently have Bone Storm up. And that Bone Storm that's permanently up, the Lucky Hit Chance is providing us with Lucky Hit Chance for the Ring of Exposed Flesh and the permanent Critical Strike Chance plus damage reduction, which makes it so incredible. Let's not forget about the bonus attack speed so we can shoot our attacks out faster. That one is not needed versus bosses, just like the pens. And here we're going to take the Molten Lotus of Serration. It's a focus with the Ossified Essence key passive buff. That will give us another 40% damage multiplier on our critical strikes with bone skills if you cast above 90 essence. Here you can also take Lucky Hit Chance, Essence Cost Reduction, and Critical Strike Chance. Currently I have Lucky Hit Chance while Barrier, That would be better as crit chance. There's a fourth interesting affix. Up to a 5% chance to restore 18% primary resource. 5% doesn't sound like a lot. It is not a lot. But our Bone Spear has 70% lucky hit chance. Doesn't get higher than that. Plus the Bone Splinter's lucky hit chance and everything. It works quite nice, especially versus bosses. Gloves are not up for debate. They need lucky hit chance, that's 16%. They need critical strike chance, 10% or 12%. And then ranks to Bone Spear. No discussion here. Then Bone Spear's primary attack makes enemies hit beyond the first vulnerable for 3 seconds, and the Bone Shards deal 60% damage multiplier. That hires your damage so tremendous if you're standing far enough from the boss. Keep in mind that you don't want to stand too close, not too far, because you want your Bone Spear to explode, splinter, and all 3 splinters at the same time to hit the boss. That means you always want to stand this far away from a boss. Just apply it to your screen and you see like what I mean. The last affix is attack speed. You could take critical strike damage with Bone Skills as well, but the attack speed works for Corpse Explosion and Bone Spear likewise. Now to the chest and why we only need 1 total armor percentage roll, and that is the Juggernaut aspect. With the chest, we have 8,700 armor. With the Juggernaut aspect, we'll go up to 13,000 plus, and the Juggernaut aspect frees a lot of Paragon points that we're usually using for bonus armor. Not needed anymore, and with the 1 total armor percentage roll on my chest, I am more than enough multiplying outside of town to be beating the 13.5k fast. Then physical damage on the chest is so nice, maximum life, and lastly damage reduction or damage reduction against fortified. Perfection S tier chest. The very last item being the Deathless Visage. Here we could discuss a lot. Is Harlequin Crest better? Would 4 ranks in our Corpse Explosion profit us so much more than its critical strike damage with Bone Skills? Physical damage also profiting our Corpse Explosion, but the Maximum Essence providing us with 10% damage multiplier, and we get these Bone Spear echoes that do 2,000 damage, but they get stronger by 5% multiplicative for every 30 critical strike damage bonus we have. And we have 700%. 700%. That makes those echoes quite incredible. Now, if you do have the Harlequin Crest, just slap it on. No matter if it's better or not, we're talking about a 5 to 10% difference between these helmets. Put it on. Put it on. You have it. I prefer the Deathless Visage. I also don't have the Harlequin Crest. I would not use it if I had it because it's just not the most optimal for the build. Still, if you have it, just use it. Same goes for the Ring of Starless Skies. Drop the Circle of Exposed Flesh, Ring of Starless Skies on. If you have Grandfather, don't use that. I mean, seriously. Melted Heart of Selig, also not worth it. Forget about it. Finally, the Paragon board, plus the new node that I always missed out on, that I didn't even know existed. I'm an idiot. 1,000 hours of Necromancer, and I missed this node. First Paragon board is Exhumation. This glyph gives us the Fortify we need for consuming corpses, and another 4% damage reduction. Fortify itself is 10%, this is another 4%, fantastic, we love it. You notice down here in the bottom left, we have every single point taken, even this node down here that you never take. But we need the 1.5 resistance to be able to take a different Book of the Dead and not have to worry about our resistances anymore. Take every single point of intelligence and ignore the actual armor nodes. Yep, we took the dexterities here and straight up went for the preservation because we don't need the bonus armor anymore. We get that taken care of. Now we're going into the Flesh Eater board, and the Flesh Eater board is so fun with this build since 1 corpse explosion consumes 5 corpses and we instantly get the 40% multiplier if there are enough corpses. The glyph we're playing is Corporeal for bonus physical damage, and we're hiring our elemental resistances here, plus the damage versus elites. Don't forget the critical strike damage node, and now we're always entering from the bottom to go into the attack speed node. Yep, this is another 5.1% attack speed plus that is just sitting in the Paragon board. This is so needed for the Bloodlands build, for the Blood Surge build too. Almost every single Necro build needs this. It's a brain dead one. Plus, something very interesting. Up to a 20% chance to execute injured non-elites. Doesn't matter at all. End of the day, you get another 30% lucky hit chance to just execute people. Non-elites below 35% HP. Below 35% HP. That means we do 1 Bone Spear that incredibly hits, followed up by 1 Corpse Explosion that incredibly hits, and then they could just die straight away, enhancing your clearing speed even more than before. Bonegraft board, you take almost everything. You want Bonegraft because it gives you maximum essence, 16 maximum essence, another 8% damage multiplier, plus another 8% damage multiplier from Bonegraft itself. Down here, maximum essence plus 16, essence, 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 and then we get 2 essence on kill as well. And we're taking 200% critical strike damage bonus with a 22% multiplier on the essence glyph. Some people keep asking, why is my radius bigger than yours? That is because my name is Ponyhoff, horse. No, it's because we got the glyph above level 15. Level 15 plus higher the radius. And yes, you want glyphs on level 21. Because if they're 21, they give you the maximum bonus, and that bonus is for free as you have put the points in anyways. Send of Death board, 15% damage reduction or damage multiplier. The damage multiplier works more often than not, since you're using 5 corpses straight away with 1 corpse explosion, often eliminating all the corpses in existence and then hiring your damage even more. Here we're playing the Imbiber glyph, and there's a discussion to be made that Imbiber could be exchanged. For Undaunted, Undaunted gives you bonus damage. Undaunted gives you damage while fortified versus damage while healthy. Damage while healthy always works, where damage while fortified only works if you're fortified, but you're also always fortified, and you get a bonus of 10% more damage reduction as well. So if you notice that you're dying too often if you kind of don't have the gear yet, if you don't have the damage reduction stats, if you can't play the build very well, which happens, Undaunted might be way better than Imbiber for you. Bringing us into the final Bloodbath board for damage while fortified, and here we're missing a few dex points, and we're going to be taking Territorial over Exploit. Exploit would be a damage multiplier versus vulnerable enemies. You can take that, and it's very good versus bosses, but I felt that the bonus of 10% damage reduction against close enemies just works so well for the build to give you the bonus survivability. And what most people struggle with is not the damage output, it is the staying alive in any situation. Lastly, our beautiful robot with Tempest on breaking support and resource support. Yes, breaking and resource, non-negotiable. And then Evernight. Evernight in this case could also be arcing to hit more enemies, but Evernight provides us with +4 to all our skills, and that is another 28% for Corpse Explosion, and I think another 35% for Bone Spear. Very good. Very good. Beyond belief, to be honest. Then Flesh of Adrenaline with a safeguard for the bonus damage reduction, tactical, and duration. If you do have the Genesis for 150% effectiveness, drop a safeguard, put it in, get another 30% damage multiplier. Yes, just that. 30% damage multiplier on all the damage we're already dealing. 10 million damage corpse explosions, millions of bone spear, times 30%. Fantastic. That's why Genesis is kind of broken. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get ready for the Gauntlet, this is the build. There's no better build. It does everything. It can use the Uber Uniques to increase your damage even more, like the Ring of Starless Skies with another 40%. Brilliant. If you want to see all Necro builds in a tier list, though, to figure out where your current build stands, here is it. Check it out. Give your opinion. It's valued.